Welcome to Fika's Focus. Voices leading change.
Heather,
Hi.
how are you going?
Yeah, good. I'm pretty nervous about this whole situation, but I'm going for it.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the step into somewhere that's not comfortable. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's really a good chance, I think, personally for me to get to know people a bit more, and obviously it gives our whānau and things just an opportunity for insight. So
100%.
Yeah. So I always like to start kind of about the person, where they're from, obviously the accent, people might pick up the accent. So tell us where you're from.
So originally from England, and we've been out here for, it'll be 9 years in January. So I moved over with my now fiance. We moved out when I was 20 weeks pregnant with our eldest. Yeah, it was big. We found out we were having a baby boy on the 31st of December, and we fled on the 1st of January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was really big. Actually, we found out I was pregnant on the Saturday in October, and on the Sunday he got offered a job in New Zealand. So it was a really big weekend.
Yes.
For us. A lot of life-changing things happened all of a sudden for us.
Whereabouts in the UK are you from?
I'm from Preston, which is the north.
Yep, the north.
A lot of people might not know. It's kind of, I guess, near Manchester.
Yes.
Coronation Street, kind of all of that. My accent has died down a lot.
Yes.
I used to be very northern.
Yes.
But, it's a lot more mellow now.
Yeah. And so what about your family? Who's out here now? Obviously 9 years on. So
So now we've obviously got our eldest boy Harrison. He's 8.5. We've got a 5-year-old girl Harper, and another little girl Madison, who'll be 3 next week. Obviously with Adrian as well. And I actually have quite a bit of family out here as well. Up in Auckland.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's nice. Yep.
My parents are up there, and my brother and my sister-in-law and my niece. They all live together up in the North Shore.
Did your parents follow you, or were you...
They followed my brother.
Yep.
My brother moved out here when I was 18.
Yes.
With his family.
Oh, yeah.
He's a little bit older than me.
Yep.
And then my mum and dad followed maybe like 6 or 7 years later.
Yes.
And then me and Adrian followed a few years later.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
It is. It's really nice to have them here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you're primary school trained?
I am, yep.
Yep. And you taught in primary over in the UK?
Yep, I did. I kind of went through all the stages. I finished school, went to college, did a BTEC in early years. So it was kind of a vocational course for 0 to 6-year-olds.
Yep.
And then from that went to uni for 3 years, where I studied primary teaching. And then got my first job at 21 and was teaching up until we moved out here.
Yeah. It's I was lucky enough to teach not in the UK, but in the UK system, in the British system, when I was living in Doha, and it really challenged me.
Yeah.
It was quite polar opposites to what I was used to, but I worked with some very good British teachers, David Burton, Angie Deed, and them. They were just, very sound, very stable. They were really, really good. It was a nice sort of space to work with. And Adrian, what does he do?
He works at Fonterra.
Yes.
So he is a process manager at the moment in... he was in the whey factory. He's actually just rolling out some kind of new system. He's moved over to the protein factory at Fonterra in Edgecombe. But that's how we got out here. He started off in food safety and quality over there, and then he's just moved roles. But that's kind of his background.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's dig in a wee bit into your time with us. We've been with Terrace Views 18 months now. I think, around abouts, and we were really stoked to keep majority of the team there, which is, and you've been part of that thing. It's been a wild ride in that space. What was it? What's been some of your big highlights so far in the Terrace Views space?
Oh, honestly, since you guys took over, it's just been, a real breath of fresh air. Just having Ashley Like Ashley really is like a really big highlight for me. She just personally has given me so much and made me kind of reach my potential and just kind of see, what I can do and kind of push me and drive me to do that, which I've really appreciated. And just the people, like honestly for me, like Terrace Views is all about the people, and I would never leave because of those people. And they're a big reason why I've been there for so long. Like I've been there since, even before you guys there, since 2019 when it opened.
Yep.
And I've just never left because the people are just so amazing.
They're such a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
Like, we always talk it like we met with a lady on Saturday who's moving down and keen to work with us. But that was just the first thing Courtney and I highlighted. We were like, honestly, the best thing about buying this place was the team.
Yeah,
it was just
100%.
and just seeing you guys, you've just like, it's just been quite phenomenal in that space. And so you're in the Waireti space, in that toddler space.
Yep.
And you're quite a toddler teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's so funny because I go in there and see you, Courtney, and Raj and Abby and things, and it's such a eclectic group in terms of,
We're all very different.
Yeah,
Very different. I've never worked within a team where everyone has been so different.
Yes.
Up until this point, I would say I've worked with people very similar to me. Mm-hmm. So it has been
Which
different.
is what? What is similar to you? Give us insight into that.
Just very easygoing, very go with the flow, very kind of the nurturing, sensitive. Yeah, I kind of just see myself as, just quite laid back.
How has that helped your leadership space though now? Because it's that room's, like I said, it's an eclectic mix.
Yeah.
That version of you, what has that allowed the others to do?
I think it makes me quite approachable.
Yes.
And I think it makes me not scary for them to bring ideas. Like, I'm not like, this is how we're doing things. I hope I'm not. And I think with that kind of approachable, laid back kind of personality that I have, I think, it just allows people to know that I'm open and that nothing has to be how I say it. Like if I bring something to the table, I'm very open for that not to be what everyone might like, or if someone's got a different idea, I'm very open to all of those things.
I could learn from that. I think that's something sometimes I want to really pursue my own ideas, but it's having that level of leadership is quite empowering for the individuals you've got in there.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because toddler teachers and toddler spaces, they're unique.
Oh, yeah. It's like, if anyone asks me, it probably is the space that I find the hardest.
Yes.
I feel like the 2 to 3 age group is when the children are developing so much emotionally, socially.
Yes.
All of the feels.
They find their voice, they find their opinions, they find what they like and don't.
There's lots of, I think, expectation from some parents as well, like on where that, like, it's the stage where they turn into little people, and if that doesn't quite happen fast enough, or if something seems off, or someone's going a quicker rate than another child, it's when it all gets started to be picked up.
Yes.
And so it can be really hard. There's lots of
And you've got to navigate that, right? You're trying to help whānau not feel like they need to compare their children.
100%.
Because developmentally at that age, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And they're building their personality and their character.
That's
it's
it.
quite a fascinating age.
It really is, yeah.
How do you kind of how do you guys support that with families?
Oh, honestly, it's just about communication, and it's just about being honest. Like, if they ever came to us with something they were worried about, if it was something we were worried about too, and then we would be honest and open about that. But equally, like, we've had parents come in when children have just turned to them like, oh, they're still not got many words. Like, is that an issue? Should I be worried? And I'm just like, no, like, not at all, because realistically, children don't really start having conversations or playing with other children until they get round 3. If they're doing that before, then amazing. But there's not really anything anyone would do until they was turning 3 anyway. Like it really is. There's so many factors that go into a child's development.
Yes.
And when they're ready to do it. Or I've got 3 children and all of them are so different. They all started talking and walking and toilet training, like all at very different stages in their life. And yeah, it's just about, being open and honest with parents.
Yeah, you're right. And it's, you think about even Harper and Madison, like, they are different characters.
Yeah, so different.
I mean, I only got a short time with Harper, but there is clear difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I really admire the toddler teachers, because they see the nuances of what, and the almost stages, dare I say, that they see an individual go through.
Yes.
Not necessarily built around stages,
No.
but just the individual stage of a child.
Yeah.
And where they're at.
100%.
And we often have to really stick up for them in that space, but to say they're fine.
Yes, 100%. Just let them be them and let them develop how they're going to develop. The more you put pressure on them and the more you kind of force something, it isn't going to happen. You just have to let them go at their own own rate. And if we ever did have concerns, we would raise those.
When you talk about forcing, because in 2023 there is the advent of social media, and what's some of the damage that you've seen? Well, not maybe damage is a hard word, but what's some of the repercussions of forcing children into spaces when they're just not ready?
Honestly, just like emotionally, they can just find it really hard. Like toilet training is quite a good one, because lots of people I think do feel pressure once they get into our space. We've got little toilets, they're kind of 2. And some are ready at that age, fully.
Yeah.
But then some aren't, but parents, because they see others going to toilets, start to feel that pressure. And it can be really, not damaging like you say, but the children just, if they're not ready, they don't want to go, then they get upset, and then there's tears, and then they get anxious about nappy changing times. And it's just a vicious circle. I'm very much a believer of just letting them do it. All of my children have kind of almost toilet trained themselves. When they started to go in the toilet, they could. I've never kind of...
And they will
initiated
resist.
It.
Toddlers will resist.
100%.
They'll just say no.
If they're not ready and they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And then it comes into the tantrums, and then the kind of the behaviours that you don't want to see, because you're trying to force them to do something they're just not ready.
Because a child's feeling an urge, they need to go to the bathroom, but then they're like, oh, it's a stressful experience. Actually, that's not what I want to do.
100%.
Yeah, it can be quite vicious.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think the toddlers, it is a fascinating age, and you see some of the decision making that I have seen in all of our toddler spaces, but I'm just obviously talking with like Terrace Views, and there is some really cool characters in that toddler space. Just the slowing down,
100%.
and just being present, and that's why that group of teachers you got in there is almost like a perfect blend.
Oh yeah, 100%. We're definitely we're getting to that point now where we are starting to know each other really well and know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and where we kind of work best and how to approach things with each other. And it takes a long time. It's a new team. And yeah, we're definitely getting to that point where I think we're going to really soon be reaching, our full potential where we can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what does full potential look like in action?
Oh, for me, it's about really open communication between the 4 of us. I think, I know you have this big kind of drive to have those brave conversations, and I've really been trying to champion that within our space and let people know that if something is upsetting them or they're not quite comfortable with something, to raise it and not see that as a negative. Like I'm really, and I think in the past I would have found it a negative thing as well, because I am someone that can take things really personally. I'm very sensitive. And if someone was to say something that they didn't like about me or my practice, it probably would have really affected me.
I'm also part of that club. Yep.
But now after being part of Terrace Views and kind of coming to the Leadership Council and having our Kaimahi things, I'm actually really in the mindset when actually that's a really growth thing. And for someone to point something out to any of us, we shouldn't take that as a negative, and we should take it as an opportunity to grow and be like, gosh, I didn't know I was doing that, and I'm so sorry that it's making you feel like that, but now I can do something about it.
Yes. Yeah, you can't fix something you just don't know about, right?
That's it.
So
And
as a leader, like, what is it? Because you've got to have those conversations with your people because you're just talking about you're sensitive. What's it been like trying to champion that with your team members, that brave conversation space?
Yeah, I have been trying my hardest to kind of empower them to do that, let them know that it's okay and that all of us are open to those. Having spoken to them all individually about how this is something I really want for our space, I know that each and every one of them are on board with that, so that it's just kind of everyone believing that and knowing that if you go to someone, it is going to be okay. There isn't going to be a backlash. They are going to take it kind of nicely and take it for their own growth, not as a, no, I don't do that. That's not. Because even if you don't know you're doing something, I actually had one recently and someone brought something to me about something that I'd done. And I had no idea. And I was really, I apologized. I hated that I'd made this person feel like that. But I also thanked them because I'm like, now I know I need to change something. And I have. And I'm very conscious about making sure that I communicate everything with every single one of my team now. And I'm using the WhatsApp group a whole heap more because it is sometimes difficult. You'll tell one person something and then you get busy with something and you don't realise you've not got round to everyone. And I thank that person for coming to me. I'm like, so I think it's as well leading by example, like knowing that they can come to me and even though I am the Kaimahi,
that reaction alone builds trust.
That's it. And so if they're going to bring things like that to me, hopefully
and
then
I blow up.
It's, they're going to realise that's it, that they can go to the others and they're going to get the same reaction.
That's a really cool space. And I know that in terms of you have been very deliberate in that space because you actually went off and did one-on-ones with them too, didn't you?
Yeah, really. I'd probably only been in the role kind of 3 or 4 weeks. And it was really, a really conscious decision kind of to see how everyone's feeling about the change. It was a big change. We've not had that style in that centre for a very long time. I think it was done on way back when I was on maternity with Madison at a point, but then it kind of fizzled out. So I just really wanted to see where everyone was at, and I wanted to get to know each of them individually as well. Like just to know where they're at with our space. What are they enjoying? What do they think we need to work on as a team? Because it's all really valid. Like, I need to know about each and every one of them. Like you say, you need to know someone to lead someone. And it's so important. And I thought from the get-go, I really need to know these people because I'm sure they will openly say themselves that there are some very quiet, reserved characters as in that space. So it is quite hard for them sometimes to open up. So to do that one-on-one, I think was really important.
It's a very deliberate and authentic move. I think when I heard it was going on, I was just so proud because I know that it's something, when you're talking about things fizzling out, it's because people aren't putting enough mana and emphasis on the power of it, right? I think, and I'm lucky enough to be part of your guys, part of everyone's actually, but part of the Kaimahi chats from there, and seeing you guys kind of buzz off each other has been quite infectious. You know, you can see people really, really buzzing. So just go back a wee bit. What got you to feeling like, oh, I can do this. I can be the Kaimahi?
Honestly, it was support from other members of my team.
Oh, cool.
And after having a conversation with Ashley around it as well, I am someone that very not necessarily doubts myself, but I do lack confidence, maybe. I don't know. And so it's very hard for me to take the next step. I hate failing, I think is the crux of it probably. I don't like failing. I don't like to say I'm going to do something and not be able to do it. So, yeah, it took me a really long time, and it took a lot of courage to write the email and send it to you guys and be like, no, I can do this. And yeah, I had some big kind of champions within not just my space, but some of the other spaces saying, you can do this. Like, you're who comes to mind. Like, you should go for it. And yeah, so I did.
What is the fear based on though, of failing?
Honestly, I've got no idea. Like, I think I'm just someone who, I also really just want to make everyone happy. I'm a very people pleaser. I want to make people happy. I don't want to let people down. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of that all leads into kind of just like, can I do this? Am I good enough?
Because there's one thing that's really stood out with you is I've heard you say along the lines of, it's time for me to take my career back. It's time for me to get into my career. And, you know, obviously Adrian's doing really well and your kids are getting to a point now, which is quite nice, you know. You know, Madison's not hanging off your shoulder for everything, and obviously Harper and
Harrison.
And Harrison, are in a position where they're self-efficient in some ways, but that has been one thing that stood out to me from you is talking about getting your own career back.
100%. I do feel like we moved out here. I had 2 years off with Harrison, which was amazing. Like, cool. Lucky to be able to do that. But I do see even friends back in the UK, like, who didn't take that time out, progress in their careers, and like I was always like, oh, like that could be me. Like, could I have gone that far yet? But me and Aid really made a really solid decision together that we were going to have kids and we were going to be there for them, and that was going to be my role. And obviously he 100% is there too, but he was going to take the reins with the work. That's what got us over here. He had to work anyway.
Yeah, of course.
And it was a very deliberate move into ECE for me, because it meant I could be with my children.
Similar paths for us too.
Yeah, I've always just wanted to be a present mum for them, and I still want that. But like you say, they're at an age now where we know we're not going to have any more children, and they are starting to get to an age where they are more self-sufficient, and I don't need to be there for their every move. And at home, I've got time to myself where I can do things if I need it. And so I just felt like the time was now for me to, and I felt in myself I needed more. Like, I just wasn't getting fulfilled with my role anymore, and I needed something else. And I didn't know what that was. I'll be honest, I wondered if I needed to go back to primary. I wondered if did I need something different to ECE? And then when the Kaimahi role came, it literally came at exactly the point when I was having all of these thoughts. And to then get...
conspires, man.
I know, and then to get the support from everyone and just... I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And it's the best thing I've ever done. It really opened my eyes to a different pathway. And it's something that I'm really enjoying, that I didn't really ever know that I wanted it. I didn't know that leadership was something that I'd be good at, or if it would be something that I'd want to do. But it is something that I'm loving, and I'm loving being able to be a part of people's growth. Yeah, really.
I think that's where you're probably understating yourself, because you haven't once yet said, actually, I'm doing something for me. And that's a mum trait. You know, I understand that. You know, mums are super people. Like, Courtney's a super mum, and you're in that same vein. But it also obviously comes back to the point where mums, females, need to say, actually, now's my turn. And it's been cool seeing you step into that space, because and where I'm really grateful for our leadership council is we've made it very clear that a kaimahi role is not just a paper handler.
No.
You know, it is. We want you to go out and develop people.
Yeah.
The next kaimahis have got to come from you guys.
Yeah.
And I think that team alone with Terrace Views, but you know, certainly seeing your group and what's going on in there. And Courtney, I think is worth talking about. I'm sure she'd appreciate it because actually I really like her intellect. I like how deep she thinks. She's quite quirky in her behaviour and humour. But then, like last night, she's like, "Oh, I can't eat a curry. Who wants curry?" Then she makes you one without chicken.
Oh my gosh, she's
do you know what I
amazing.
mean? Like,
Oh,
there's
100%.
such a and then you've got Abby, and you know, I remember trying to get anything out of her. I remember asking her to go and make a phone call to a parent. She was like, "No way," you know. And then Raj coming in from not a great experience and where she'd come from, and then you know you have to heal that. You've had to. That's what I think you're understating a wee bit the work you've done in that space because, like I said, quite an eclectic group and toddlers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a very full on space, and I think you're just not giving yourself enough runs on the board there because you've actually done a great job.
Thank you.
But what does it look like for you in change? Let's just say someone gets pregnant or you know leaves or you know that's the real test. But actually, I actually think that'll be okay for you.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. I think change in terms of teams and things doesn't. I think I've been through quite a lot in terms of changing within that centre. And
well,
it
you're used to
isn't
big change too, coming out here and all that stuff. But
it doesn't scare me. Like
Cool.
I've always been quite adaptable and love new people. Like it's just to me, it's just another person to help grow. Like it's nothing. Yeah.
It's so funny to hear you, now that I'm hearing this, it's so funny to hear you discuss fear of failure when actually you've been very clear that I love developing people.
Yeah.
Because actually, what does developing people look like? To me, that everything you've explained, you're open, you're approachable, you facilitate ideas, you make sure people are heard.
Yeah.
Yet you talk about failure.
I know.
Which is so funny. It's so It's
Yeah.
almost irony in action because you're literally actionable. You know, a lot of people live in a talking space, but no action. Yeah. But you're actually actioning everything. But you're talking about it over here. It's quite it's very contrasting.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. I'm just I've always been. I just hate letting people down.
Yes.
And so I just constantly have that fear that I'm gonna. And I don't know where that comes from and I don't know.
But I'm the same.
Yeah.
But I'm the same. And I've let people down.
Yeah.
You know, I think I've had to make peace. You just try and minimise it, right?
Yeah.
It's like our children. Like we're probably going to let our children down in some way or another.
Yes, 100%.
We have to mitigate and minimise it as much as we can.
Yeah.
But I think intention matters. Because what is your intent? You want to grow people.
100%.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And you're going to make mistakes with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why teaching? Why did you go into teaching?
I've never wanted to do anything else.
So where do you sit in your family? Your brother's oldest or your oldest or?
Yeah, no, my brother's older.
Yep.
He's 42.
Yep.
And there's quite a big age gap between us. It's just me and him.
Yep.
So, yeah,
always so you were basically the second oldest because you were big age gap.
Very different stages in our lives growing up. He was amazing. Him and my sister-in-law, she used to take me to his halls of residence and kind of for the weekend when they could be hanging out like I was, and they'd take me shopping for the weekends. But then, so he moved away at 18, never came back because he went to uni, then moved in with his wife. She would have been wife then, and so, I guess I was brought up the teenage years and all of that very much as a single child.
Similar to me.
Yeah.
And do you, you know, like, because teaching's you certainly have to be called to it. Like, I think.
Yeah, I honestly, ever since I've wanted to do anything, it's always to be with children. Like, my high school placement was at a play school, the play school I went to as a child.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And it was just, I didn't go to, we call it nursery. I didn't go to nursery or daycare. My mum was a very present mum. Her jobs worked around us. And yeah, I went 9 to 12 a few days a week. It was just at the road, like 2 minutes away in the local church.
Yep.
And that's where I did my placement when I was in year 10. And then went to college. I didn't want to do A-levels. I wanted to do a vocational course to do with children. Did that, and within that there was multiple placements again, and it was always with the end goal to be a primary school teacher. Yeah, and then straight into uni. I didn't stop, didn't have any gaps. Straight into uni, did my placements, got my first teaching job at one of my placements when I was 21. And then the only reason I left there was because we moved within the country.
So you really followed that traditional route, similar to me,
Yeah.
just basically out of school, uni, teaching job, and you've just been at it since then.
100%.
You're similar, like 21, you said, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was the same. And it's what changes have you seen since that time, though? It's been some big changes in education.
Yeah.
You know, what are you seeing in terms of children and parents? What are you seeing?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's so hard because I had such my younger years in England, and I don't really know what's going on there now.
Yes.
I know lots of my best friends are still teachers over there, and it's incredibly difficult. Workload is huge and things like that. And then over here, obviously, I've only been, I don't even know how long I've been doing ECE here for, 6 years? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So your colleagues and friends back in the UK, they're finding it hard. It's a lot of workload on them too.
Yep.
Yeah, see, it does mirror what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know, I think the workload and the expectation of being able to bring the best out of so many little people is actually really hard to achieve.
Yep.
And like you're talking about, like me, you take it personally when you feel like a child's not progressing.
Oh, 100%.
And for sensitive people like ourselves, we take it even more personally.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to see a child struggling,
Oh, so hard.
especially when they're in your grasp right there.
Yeah.
And some of those lessons never leave you, really. I think it's, you know, that's why I love seeing your work in the Waitrete space, because you're trying to build a team of 4 that can work together around kids, so that if you miss, someone else gets it, you know, and someone steps in. That's what's been the real hallmark of what's been going on at Terrace Views in general, I believe. That's 100%. Why we really have been stoked to review that place and see why it's so successful. But you built a team that steps in when someone can't.
Yep.
And that's been quite a critical piece, hasn't it?
Yeah.
What about leadership, though? Like, what were some of your leaders in the past that you can, outside of Ashley, and we can talk to Ashley, though.
Yep.
But even like Danielle and Shay, what? Maybe that's a cool space to go to, is talking through that relationship that you guys have outside of Ash.
Yep.
Just you, Shay, and Danielle.
Oh, honestly, I could not do this without them. Like, they are the biggest hype women ever. Like, those two are two of the biggest supporters that were getting me to go for this role in the first place. And they just, I can go to them with any problem. If something's too much, if I need to talk about something, they're there with ideas, and equally, hopefully, I'm there for them as well. I've had situations that have maybe tested me and I've not been able to see quite clearly, and straight away I can go to either one of them and talk it through with them, and they just bring me straight down and see it in a clearer light, and then I can go in and have those conversations in a way better way than what I may have done not having spoken to them.
Yes.
They're just, I honestly, they are the two people that I would want to do this most with. Yeah, they're amazing. And I think it's so relatable because we are all mums. We do all have 3 kids.
Yeah,
We're all
you
at
do
very...
too. That's right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we're all at very, like the same stage of life.
Yes.
We all understand how hard it is. And so I think even more there's just that deeper understanding of where we are and in our headspaces and the
perspective.
challenges that we face being the kaimahi and mothers of 3 little children. Like, it's great to be a part of this team with them.
It's such a dynamic team.
Yeah.
Where you do really help. And I think there's a real deep level of vulnerability there too. I think that's a real undervalued quality in leadership, and something that society has shunned, especially for females, you know, which is rubbish. Because I think in that space, what we see, just talking about your kaimahi group, there is this, hey, I'm struggling with this and don't know how to do this. Oh, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? Oh, my experience is this. Hey, you'll be fine. Blah, blah. You know, it's just evident.
There's no judgment. There's no nothing.
Yes.
Like, it can be the smallest thing, the biggest thing, and we're just there for each other.
Yes.
100%.
It's very, very powerful.
But I also think we're all very different.
Yes.
Very different people, which is awesome because I take so much from each of them individually.
Yes.
And take it into my own kind of practice and steal bits from here and there, what I've seen those guys do, because they do bring, although we're at the same stage of life, we are very different people.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a very, it's the power of diversity, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And the power of diversity. What do you think it's going to take to move you to the next step? What, for you personally, whatever that next step may be.
Yeah.
And when I say that, please understand, I'm not trying to say centre leader. Like, if that's a goal, cool. But next step is the next change, next growth, next level of a little bit of uncomfortableness, a little bit of fear. What is it going to take to get you to that, to be ready to take the next step?
Ooh. I think I need to have more belief in myself. I think I need to work on that because I'm very much someone who seeks the approval and from other people, but I just need to be okay in myself and be like, no, I can do this. I don't need Ray to go, yeah, you'd be amazing at that, or you can do this, or be telling me the next path. Like, I just need to speak up for myself and be like, this is where I want to go and I actually can do it. Like, I think that's a big barrier for me. And so working on that would be, I think the biggest.
Which is crazy because, again, you got 3 little humans in your house, and probably 4, but with Adrian, but 3 little humans in your house that have absolute belief in you, right?
Yeah.
How can we, and they're the most probably important people in the world.
Oh, yeah.
If their belief's not enough, you know, like, this is where part of the power of this conversation is I get to reaffirm to you that you actually don't need my opinion.
No.
But that I am still silently waving my flag for you.
Yeah.
That what you're doing in terms of what you've discussed, which is empowering people to grow, is exactly the same things I'm doing. You know, there's no difference. We're doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it in a different places to you.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the correlation of events that allow you to see pathways, which is I'm doing exactly what Ash is doing, which is exactly what you're doing, which is Danielle.
Yeah.
Then you can start to say, instead of, what do I need to do? It's like, actually, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's the rhetoric in the head.
It is. And like, I know we spoke, like, when I came to Leadership Council about my goals and things, like, I find them so hard to come up with because I don't have that belief. I'm like, could I do that in 6 to 12 months? Or am I, like, thinking way too far? Like, should I just stay in my lane a little bit? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's... Yeah. And also, I think too logically, like, but how would that work? How can I make that work in our life now? Instead of just being like, no, this is what I want. We will make it work.
Is Adrian like that?
Adrian's very logical.
Right.
He's very, he's very logical in his decision making. he's a typical kind of bullet points,
Right.
likes no waffle,
Right.
like kind of guy.
Is Harrison like that?
Oh, Harrison's very like me. Harrison doesn't like to fail. Harrison, and I've always wondered where Harrison gets this from, and it isn't until really probably talking to you that I realised that maybe that's from me. He won't do anything if he thinks he's going to fail. He didn't talk until he was well into his twos, and when he did, he was pretty much talking full sentences. I remember we used to read an ABC book every night with him. And then one night we literally got it out and he was like, apple, ball, and like knew everything. And he'd never said a word about the book before, and then he just knew every single thing. Like he just, with everything in life, at school, at home, if he thinks he can't do it, he won't. Which isn't a great trait, and it's something we're trying to work through with him a lot. But yeah, he's definitely got my
And what about Harper?
hops. She'll have got everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, again, I only had a small interaction with her, but
Yeah.
she goes out. She's a go-getter.
Oh, she is. She will, have a go at everything. She, loves life. She's...
And Maddie?
Maddie's a one to her own. Like, she's just cruisy as. Like, everything's a bit too much effort. She, like, you go for a walk with Maddie and within 30 seconds she's on Aid's shoulders. Like, she's
We're
just...
one of those.
which is so bizarre because the other two are very sporty. And then Madison's just, a little queen. I reckon everyone does everything for her and she's quite happy about it.
What about stability?
That's a hard one. Right?
What about stability? Do you think, would people judge you as being stable? Would they say, Heather's someone stable?
I think so. Like,
Yep.
I've heard this really striking. Like, when we had our Kaima here first meeting,
Yes.
and I think people saw me getting upset about me talking about kind of the peaks and troughs. And by all accounts, apparently people were quite surprised by that.
Oh.
Because they don't see me as someone that they see me quite level and
Yes.
stable and
Yep.
someone that kind of just gets things done and gets on with things. And unless I guess you really know me, you won't know that I'm that sensitive. And I've not had a lot of peaks and troughs in my life, but still just talking through what I was talking, it would get me really...
But it's all relative, right?
Yeah.
You know, how many peaks and troughs people have in their life is still relative.
Oh, 100%.
Like if your trough is losing a loved one early in your life, and that's your only trough, that's still a catastrophic trough.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or losing your legs at 18 when you've used them for 18 years.
Yeah.
But that's your only trough.
Yeah,
It's still
that's-
catastrophic.
Oh, 100%,
I think
yes.
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because I saw you
Well, you've
in a
seen me
yes,
in that,
So, but when we go back to stability, this is where we need people like Harper needs stability, because otherwise, what keeps happening with people like Harper and myself is we never quite find it. We're always going.
Yeah.
And actually, you need grounding at some point.
Yeah.
Because you either run out of energy or you go and do silly things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we're talking about here. And in Zen Buddhism, they do talk about trying to having feet in both camps and kind of peace and chaos. And what you're discussing is sometimes you're just more so in the peace side a bit too much.
Yeah.
Whereas, like for me, I'm a person who lives a little bit in chaos.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah.
And I need to just be aware of that. But that's the thing, I think, what you offer and what you've discussed today and what you've broken down is people can come to you because your reactions are stable, your opinions are stable, your viewpoints are stable. They're not eccentric or erratic.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas that is one of the work-ons for myself is sometimes I can be very erratic, and then some days stable. But that just means people who know me know that there's days that I'm really up and then days I'm down.
Yeah.
I think as a leader, what you're doing for your people, that stability, and probably what Harrison would bring to his friends and circles, is it's not always negative that he's like that.
No.
You know, I mean, it's probably less likely that he's going to go and do something as a teenage boy that's silly, that he'll regret. And, you know, and compared to me, yeah. So, yeah. I think part of this conversation is kind of highlighted. You probably need to put more runs on the board for what you're doing. You know, I think that's very adamant. I'm very adamant about that. It's pretty evident to me, and that I'm sure if I sat Shay and Danielle down here as well, they'd probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just to close the circle, a question we always ask people is around a student or a child that they worked with. You don't need to name them, but just to discuss potentially the impact that they had on you as a teacher.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this so much, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, and there's lots from there's a few from my primary days that I still really think about because they had very troubled backgrounds. There was lots of, issues and things that happened at school that were really worrying. And like to this day, I wonder where they are and what they're doing. And then there was another flip side of me that was like, the hardest challenge whilst I've been an ECE teacher has been with my own kids.
Yes. Oh, you're the first to bring that up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that was, we can relate to that. And I think every teacher can relate to that. Yeah.
And so I was actually thinking, actually teaching Harrison, Harper and Madison in my space, being their teacher. I was Harrison's teacher for a while, and I've been Madison's. I think Harp's is the only one I've not actually been her teacher.
Yeah.
But they really tested me as a teacher, and they made me really think about who I wanted to be in that space. They made me really rely on the support of others and made me really build trust in other teachers in a way that I don't think I had before or needed to. And so honestly, I don't think I'd be the teacher I am today if I hadn't have taught my own children.
You're the first to bring it up, but it is every teacher struggles with their own kids.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I've absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I went into this career because I wanted to be with my children. But it doesn't mean it hasn't come with its daily challenges.
Yeah.
And probably, like I say, made me rely on other teachers and made me create relationships with those other teachers in a way I wouldn't have needed to before.
Yes, yeah.
And so, I think that's probably really
because other teachers see what we don't see as well. I think.
Yes.
I think that's with Frankie, our youngest. Like there were days I was crying because she just didn't want to go in there into the room, and she wanted to be with me. And it was easy for me to just remove her as well because she could just cruise around with me. But it was so hard, and being patted on the back and told it'll be okay and you'll be fine. And in fact, to the point where some teachers say, oh, look, we really struggle with Frankie. And they say, oh, they've got a toddler or a 2-year-old. And they're like, oh, and when did it change? I said, it changed when she turned 5. Like, oh, no. But you do. You're right. You actually point out a very good point, is that you have to just trust them.
Yeah.
Like, even more so.
That's it. In a way, I wouldn't have had to have trust them. I think being in that space, and if my own children weren't there, like, I really have had to build different types of relationship with those teachers.
Yeah. It's such a valid point. And it was so hard to see. I actually was over at Commonwealth Games. I was in Birmingham when Frankie finished, and that was actually, like, I literally teetered on not going to the Commonwealth Games because of that. Yeah. Like, I was like, no, because Frankie's finishing at daycare and at early learning and potentially starting school, and I was like teetering not going purely on that, because I knew we'd come through so much with her being with us I'm glad you brought that up because it's hard as a teacher.
It is. It's really hard. Like there's some days where I feel like I'm failing at both.
Yep.
Like being
Yep.
a teacher and being a mum, and days are hard, and you have to. If you've had a bad day in the morning, you have to go to. Then
Turn on
come
your professional
in,
hat, right?
put your professional hat on, and forget the morning, even
Yes.
though it's been horrific. And then, it's really hard to not bring home into the centre, knowing, oh, if you're not going to listen, then you won't be going to the park later. Like, do you know,
Yes.
just things
Yes,
like
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah.
really having to
Without
check.
looking at the influence of everything that's going on.
That's it. And really just having to check myself and, really think about who I wanted to be as a mum and a teacher in that space.
It's such a great point. I'm glad. Yeah, you're the first person to bring that up, and I'm surprised because that was certainly very hard for Courtney and I.
Yeah.
Far out.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, it's been 50 odd minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd talk very long.
Look, I need to say again, I really love your work. I have loved our journey so far with the Terrace Views team and seeing you grow into that space. I'm excited to see where you head. I'm excited when I do see you crying about things and getting passionate about things. I do love seeing your messages on the chats when you're literally asking for help or and just the vulnerability. So we really appreciate your work.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Honestly, I don't think I'd be where I am in my career or, personally without you guys. So
We appreciate
I really
that.
appreciate it.
And obviously to our mate Ash down there, she's just
Oh my gosh, she's
superstar.
absolutely incredible. Like, she is my role model. She's, someone I aspire to be like as a leader. I could not have done what I've done without her. So,
Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.